It's not just a mindset,
it's the body.
It's the whole setup, right? It's the whole way of being.
It's just so deep,
So what we've had to do is get underneath the superficial symptoms and think, what's the actual deeper problem? And it boils down to, it's this thing, it's because it's money and you're human. And the way we make good financial decisions or don't, because we work with so many people, you have to actually have your thinking brain online. Also be aware of the actual, the emotional motivation, that what's causing the decisions, because it's the mindset's in play as well. And then we have to get to and say what's actually happening to the body brain, the triune brain model. We often start with that and saying, look, let's look at how you make good financial decisions, just to sort of open up the mindset for someone.
Because when people are in fear and reactivity, that traumatized fight flight, they can't plan long term. You know, I spoke to a financial advisor the other day. I said, listen, we've got this conference coming up. I don't know how it's going to go, but it might go well. I want to get a bit ahead of the curve on this. So I said, you know, he said, listen, Mark, I plan for 5 years minimum, you know, for your future for 5 years. Do you want to have that conversation? And I was kind of surprised. You know, most businesses don't think more than a year ahead. You know, like coaches, you might have a contract for 6 months maybe. And this guy was like, listen, I want to work with you for 5 years, you know, as a financial advisor for you. And I was like, wow. And if you're like if you're in that sort of traumatic, immediate threat, you ain't thinking 5 years ahead. You ain't thinking rationally. It's all coming from, I've got to get what I get now. You know, give me the milk, not the cow.
It is, and it can, but it causes people to make them, like, it causes really bright people to make awful decisions. Yeah. Because it's not even just the short-termism or anything, but repeatedly spending, repeatedly money comes in, and they have, for some reason, for something that hasn't yet come into their awareness, they keep on getting rid of it.
Right, that's what I did for years. I just kept getting rid of it.
Yeah,
I kept getting rid of it for years.
Yeah. Or as soon as they get scared, the comfortable money mindset is probably one of the most uncomfortable places a human being can be, from what we've felt and worked with the people who work with us, because it's fear-based, and it's like people close down and hang on, and they go to that anxiety place and start to hoard, and they starve their businesses.
I've definitely seen that with people that just cannot be comfortable. And it just seems like, I think I turned a corner when I got married, and my wife says it's all her fault. I think she's been a good influence on me. But, you know, I just haven't worried about money in a few years. Now, I still think about my business a lot. I still think about, you know, make sure we make money, and okay, is there cash flow for the, you know, at the moment we're doing a crowdfunding for the conference, for example, and I've got to raise about £200,000 to make the conference happen. There's a bit of anxiety there, but I'm not like worried about it. It's just part of my plan for the year. We make the money, we borrow the money, we get gifted the money, whatever. I haven't worried about money in a few years. And even though now it's much bigger amounts of money flying out, I mean, my mum couldn't bail me out if I screwed that one up. That's definitely the case. So I go, that's interesting that I'm not so worried about money now, even though the stakes are bigger. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. That's fantastic, Mark. And some of the work, when we have these 7 capabilities that we look at with people, and one of them, it's just interesting talking to you, we explore how much people give their power to money. And what it's sounding like from you is you've actually gotten to the place where you're comfortable enough with it. You're not giving your power to money. You're having a bit more control over it.
Don't freak me out anymore. Don't lose sleep over. I haven't lost night's sleep over money in at least 3 years.
That's absolutely fantastic. And the other one is the upskilling. The real top 2% of financially successful people understand that as they get more money into the system, they're actually going to have to become better, not worse.
That's what I'm learning. I learn about houses and gold prices and Bitcoin and stocks, and I'm having to learn all these things. There's a lot to learn, but I don't mind. I just feel like it comes with the territory. It's a nice problem to have. Do you know what I mean? Like, I've got to learn
it keeps on going, because if any of us here were given a £40 million business tomorrow morning, what would happen to it? We'd run it up on the rocks. We haven't upskilled enough. Like, it takes a lot different money skills to run a £1 million business or a £10 million business.
It does. Like, I'm running the conference now, and that's a bigger scale than, you know, my business before, which was like an 80 grand business, and the conference is it's got a 400 grand, 500 grand budget. So it's sort of 5 times as big as the business I was running before. And it's like, okay, new skills, new people, new colleagues, certain bringing new people in, different spending as well. Like I realized like, oh, I can spend money on, say, a copywriter for my website or get a new fancier web designer because the return makes it make sense. Whereas previously it wouldn't have made sense with the scale to have a copywriter. You know, and the other thing I've realized, tell me if this is where this fits on your spectrum, is how precious my time is. Like, you know, and this is, for me, I've realized that I don't want to be spending, I've had poorer friends of mine that I think have a poorer mindset who will say, don't spend money on that, do it yourself. Oh, God. I'm like, why would I do it myself when I could, A, I don't want to, it's not my life purpose, but B, that's, if my time is several £100s an hour, whatever it is, you know, like, that's crazy to not spend 50 quid an hour to have that done for me.
Yeah, you want to be on track.
Because you want to be focused on creating assets, and the upfront work is massive, but the reward is fantastic because it ends up buying you your time. Because that will come in all the time, not earned income, which the majority of the population is set up to get a job, and then when they're not working, they're working for themselves in effect, being self-employed, but they carry on with the same mindset.
Because when you're, like, I spoke to my lawyer about this, so I've got a lawyer now, right? Nice bloke, does jiu-jitsu, good guy. He gets paid £300 an hour plus VAT, and I thought that's quite a lot of money. And I thought that this is the most I'm used to paying someone per hour. You know, I was a bit freaked out when we started paying him, but then it's very useful what he does now because we're at a scale where it makes sense. But then I realized this guy has to work really hard, and he's got a limited earning potential. Because he makes money per hour. Whereas I thought if I'm selling assets, I'm selling a course that can have 100 people on, but it can have 1,000 people on. Or I'm writing a book, and that book, you know, I've got a book now. My book makes me £10 a day. This book here, tenner every day into my bank account. It doesn't sound like much, but over a year, worth having.
Yeah, you know? As they say, that's better than a kick up the arse, isn't it?
It is, but because I'm not doing it, the book's written. Amazon's selling it. You know? Like, that's like, but that's really I think I'm sort of sold for you guys in this sort of stuff, and I'm really realizing it's important. But what kind of pushback do you get here? Because people say, oh, you part of the evil capitalist system, and you're supporting oppression, you're just, helping rich people get richer. Like, what's the kind of pushback you generally might get from the more, because my audience are pretty hippie, they're pretty alternative. What's the pushback you might get?
I mean, you can sometimes, when you're like, we present to big audiences, and you'll always look out into the audience and see a couple of people who were there and they've a face on them like a slapped arse. And you can tell, and I think, right,
well, I love having Irish people on the show.
And you think, right, there's somebody there and they're not in a good space with somebody creating money. And I suppose when it comes to the sort of the partisan politics or anything like that of money creation, I've seen a lot of that because my dad and his background, I mean, he went to the best public school, all the rest of it, all that family were like that. And they did have beliefs about poor people that there's no point divvying out the money because these people would, what did Boris Johnson say, spaff it up the wall. And I hated their...
and I guess you saw the corruption as well.
Just with political parties, I mean, honest to God, don't even start me on it. It was shocking, and it absolutely was one of the reasons I left Ireland, because I thought, I just don't want to be any part of this. But I'll tell you, on the other side of it, my granny on the other side, the poor one, was a communist. And she believed that every penny earned was from the sweat of the back of the working poor. She was the nicest, most intelligent woman. And because her whole life she believed that her financial success was dictated by somebody else, she wasted her life and she achieved nothing more.
You want to screw anyone over, because people think it's a zero-sum game, don't they?
That's
they think,
right.
if I make money, I take it from someone else. But that's not how money works, is it, when you look into
it grows and it creates, and I'm so passionate about it. I mean, and the hard right and the hard left, I did a degree in history out of passion for politics, really, because I'm so passionate about this. These things are just mental constructs. They're nothing. except they create polarization. We see the sort of problems people have, and they try to interpret them through one of these lenses.
Yeah.
And you think, you need to solve the actual problems.
Those extremes aren't very healthy, are they? And I guess I look at it another way. It's one, if I want to help my students who are poor, and I have poor mentees from working class backgrounds, it helps them if I teach them this money mindset stuff.
Completely.
Really, like, I want to get them out of poverty. It's part of that. It's not the only thing, but it's part of that. You know, they need good education, maybe government investment, you know, small business loans, you know, that kind of thing. But then the other thing I go is, well, what do I want to take responsibility for? I don't know if there is a better alternative to the capitalist system. There might well be. I hope there is. Maybe there is. There's problems there. There's definitely. But also, it's like, is that my responsibility to take that on my shoulders? Or is it just my responsibility to do the best I can with embodiment, which is my skill and my love? And if I want to help more people, I mean, today we gave out free embodied trauma training to several thousand people who are working with like anti-racism and anti-discrimination. I can only do that from a place of having a bit of wealth. Because it cost me a few £1,000s to put that event on. If I really want to help people, there's no way I can do that without having at least some money behind
it. That's the best demonstration of you taking your power back and control and doing something of good. Because what we do is that we've had, in one of the businesses, we rent properties. We've got flats in the poorest area of Derby. So we've got tenants there who are on benefits. And what we decided to do over a decade ago is we provided them with free central heating. Because they have problems managing their money, but we see that as like something of a giving of what we value, because there's a need there. So you can do more, you can be more of yourself and do more good out there by being good with money rather than looking at the system.
That's right. Yeah. And these guys, most of them, they'd actually just drink instead of, you know, but spending it on heating. And we can tell we've prolonged their lives through being able to give free heating. And that's something we're able to do. If we weren't
in a position
generating,
of being able to give, aren't you? Your position of being able to give. I think it's very easy. There's, you know, the whole. We haven't really got time now, but we could look at the other side of things of resentment. The amount of resentment I've drawn since I started doing a bit better. You know, even though from an Irish immigrant family, grew up poor, alcoholic dad. Fucking hell. People get resentful real quick when you do well. That's what I found. And you know, and I don't want to be like a rapper calling everyone a hater who disagrees with them, but there's something in there just going, you know what, I'm not gonna, you know, Nietzsche identified this, the resentment that kind of comes in against the rich, and or even people who are just moderately successful in embodiment, not millionaires or anything. What other skill sets were there then? You got through a few, but what were some of the other skill sets that people need to learn who are maybe listening to this?
Well, I think we've identified 5 critical money skills.
And this is again some of the stuff from the training and capability and competency background. There are 5 critical skills, and one of the first ones is managing money. The second one is saving, and there are specific skills to saving money. The next one is creating, and then of course there is a skill to giving, and there is a skill to spending.
And then embodiments as well, right? Like being able to give, you know, like if you look at the stereotype of like Gollum, my friend, it's the opposite of that, right?
Absolutely. And not rescuing. Do you know what I mean? Because you cross the line, and we've seen loads of people who financially enable people that they should never financially enable.
Well, I've seen that with, you know, people that have alcoholic husbands or wives or whatever, you know, addiction cycling, they're just keeping it going, you know, they're not actually helping. So enabling would be another one, wouldn't it? So those skills, so there's giving, there's being able to ask for money, right? Like a lot of my students really struggle with being able to ask for like payment. What advice would you have? Because I know a lot of people out there, they do yoga, they love their yoga class, but then when it comes to asking for the money, they somehow they tighten up, they stop breathing. You know, what would you say there?
And I mean, you embody these things about not deserving and all of these things, but some of it is also, you know, when people are in the space where they stay self-employed and they're not understanding how to build assets in the business. So they're not really understanding, how do you pitch your value?
Right.
And there's a lot of things surrounding that when we work with people and say, look, you need to understand what value you're giving. It's not about, you know, whether it's 5, 10, 200 or whatever you're asking for.
Yeah. And that's a key one, I think, with marketing generally is often my students will be trying to sell themselves and they'll say, I'll come to my yoga because it's Iyengar yoga. And I'm like, yeah. But what are you giving? Like, what's the actual value your class provides? And there's a sort of empathic reframe that's needed from the customer's point of view. And that's really an empathic move, is seeing what's at the heart of what they offer and the actual value of it, rather than,
that's right.
Well, I do a yoga class. So it's like, well, so what, you know?
It's so true, Mark. And being able to then package it in a way that people out there, and not just, I suppose, specialist yoga people, but maybe some of the more general population can understand the value as well.
Right, because people, we tend to speak in our own languages and our own jargons, and we're all a bit too close to our own businesses. I find it very helpful to work with advisors, and I'll go to Julia Chantraise, one of my advisors in Brighton, or Tad Hargrave, and I'll say, well, what do you think the Embodiment Conference is? And what am I really selling is one of the things I ask quite a lot. It sounds like a dumb question, but I'm trying to figure out the real, like, what is the heart of this, the essence of it, the value of this for other people. And sometimes we're a little bit close to our own businesses. We're like, well, I just do Aikido, I just do yoga. I don't necessarily see that from the customer's point of view. That's
very powerful. And the really powerful question there, Mark, is what is your customer actually buying?
Yeah. So they'll say it's a yoga class, but it's like, well, what do they get from the yoga class?
That's right.
Well, they're more relaxed. Okay, well, why is that good that they're more relaxed? Because they don't shout at their kids. Okay, why is that good? Okay, because they have a relationship with their kids, right? So you have to keep digging, don't you, a little bit?
Yeah, that's right.
Nice. Oh, we're almost on time here. This has been amazing. You guys are absolutely crapping value on everyone. Top takeaways for people then, having heard this. We'll give you one each. Top takeaways for anyone listening.
Well, we said the first one's always uncover your underlying mindset. You can see it from the numbers. Numbers never lie. They'll show you patterns, and that's an art in itself, because we have to help people with that. It's not as easy as you think. Karen, my dear?
And I would say you can only take the next step, and the next step is fine as long as you're taking the right next step.
So that might be someone that's in a debt mindset, just getting that sort of breaking mindset.
Yeah.
Is it common? Like, I think I jump about a little bit. Is that common, or do you think it's more that we just have one that's there all the time?
We do tend to have a default one that is there, sort of 60-70%. It's the most prevalent, and we shift that when stuff comes into our awareness.
Got it.
Yeah. Once it comes up into the awareness, and that comes from that embodied space.
Yeah.
Shift it, yeah.
Okay, if people want to find out more, where do they go? I definitely want to find out more. Is there a book? Is there a website?
Yeah.
What's the thing people do?
Our book, The 4 Money Mindsets, is a very good start.
It's an audio book as well. I love audio books. You've done the audio book yet?
We've not done the audio yet.
Oh,
that's the next thing on the list,
Mine too. I haven't done my audio one either. This year, I spoke to someone this morning. That's on my plan for this year. Okay, so there's the book. Any website? What's the URL?
And it's the www.the4moneymindset.com.
There we go. You got the URL.
And great if somebody wants to connect with us on Facebook. It's an unusual surname, Sutton-Johal, SUTTON-Johal. And our business page there is the penny drops.
The penny drops is what people should be looking for. I'm just getting some stuff up on my phone here now. By the way, listeners, if listeners ever see me tapping my phone, I'm taking notes, okay? Those of you who are on YouTube, and I want you to think I'm texting my mum, which I do need to do today, actually. Okay, final parting message at all from either of you? Final parting message.
And this is the thing with actually sorting out your money and creating assets. It's all teachable. It's absolutely doable. We've done it for people. Done it for ourselves.
You can learn it, can't you? You can learn it. I think I modeled it the hard way from sort of wealthier friends, and saw some of my own patterns, and I stumbled along the way, but I think I could have learned a lot quicker had I had help from people like you, and I still got a way to go. I think there's always a next step. So good stuff. I think you've probably pissed off some people. So unlucky guys, if you want to send me your complaints on £50 notes, that's fine. Just post those to me.
Okay.
And for everybody else, I think you've helped them. So thank you so much, both of you.
Oh, thank you, Mark.
It's great. Thank you for inviting us.